A lot of people hear a phrase like renting a girlfriend in the Philippines and instantly picture something cheap, sleazy, or simple. But the truth is, it usually is not simple at all. What a lot of foreign men are really looking for is not just sex, it is companionship, care, attention, and the feeling of mattering to someone again. And that is exactly why this topic gets complicated so fast. Because once money, loneliness, attraction, and hope all get tangled together, people stop seeing clearly. From the outside, it can look easy to judge. An older foreign man shows up in the Philippines, starts spending time with a younger Filipina, helps with rent, food, errands, or school expenses, and people immediately decide they know the whole story. But life is rarely that neat. A lot of these arrangements sit in a gray area between dating, support, companionship, survival, and genuine emotional attachment. That is why they can start casually and end in ways nobody expected. For older men especially, the appeal is not hard to understand. A lot of them are not coming from happy, full lives back home. Some are divorced, some are widowed, some are retired and feel invisible. Some barely see their children or grandchildren. Some are staring at the possibility of spending the next 10 or 20 years alone, maybe in an expensive care facility, maybe in a cold apartment, maybe with nobody checking whether they ate, took their medicine, or even had a decent conversation that day. That kind of loneliness makes people look at the world differently. Then they come to the Philippines, and suddenly life feels warmer in every sense of the word. The weather is warm, the people are warm, the food feels alive, the pace feels lighter, and on top of that, they meet women who know how to make a man feel noticed again. Not just desired, noticed. That part matters more than people realize. A man who has spent years feeling like a ghost can become emotional very fast when someone starts caring whether he slept well, ate lunch, got home safely, or looks tired today. That is where these arrangements often begin, not with some dramatic plan, not with a contract, usually with attention. A woman starts helping, a man starts paying for a few things, she is around more often, he gets used to the company, she gets used to the support. And before long, something that was supposed to be temporary starts feeling like a relationship, even if nobody ever sat down and defined it clearly. And that is one of the biggest reasons this whole subject gets messy. The man may call it companionship. The woman may call it helping each other. Outsiders may call it a transaction. But inside the arrangement, feelings often start growing whether people planned for that or not. For many older foreigners, the setup feels practical at first. Instead of paying huge amounts of money back home to live in some sterile place where nobody cares about them, they can stay in the Philippines, live more comfortably, and have someone in their life who brings warmth, care, and attention. A lot of men tell themselves it is a better deal, and emotionally, sometimes it does feel like a better deal. A woman cooks, checks in, reminds him of his medicine, helps with appointments, keeps the house feeling lived in, and gives him the kind of companionship he was missing. That can feel less like a service and more like a second chance at life. At the same time, a lot of women in these situations are not stupid, and they are not always pretending either. Some genuinely enjoy taking care of someone. Some like older men because older men feel calmer, more generous, less chaotic, and easier to build with. Some women are drawn to stability. Some want an escape from financial struggle. Some are supporting children, parents, or siblings. Some are lonely too. Some are just trying to survive a hard economy with whatever options life puts in front of them. That is why these situations cannot be understood with one lazy sentence. There are women who manipulate, there are men who exploit, there are also cases where both people know exactly what the arrangement is and prefer it that way. And then there are cases where something real starts to grow in the middle of it, which is where things become even harder to sort out. Younger men often arrive from a completely different starting point, but they can get pulled into the same kind of emotional fog. A lot of them come from dating cultures back home where they feel ignored, rejected, or constantly measured. They are tired of apps, tired of being ghosted, tired of feeling invisible, tired of being told to just be yourself while watching the same small group of men get all the attention. So they take a trip. They tell themselves it is for adventure, sunshine, maybe a break from stress, maybe a little fun. Then they get to the Philippines and everything feels different. Women smile at them, talk to them, notice them. The attention feels almost unreal at first. Men who felt average at home suddenly feel special. Men who were insecure about age, weight, hair loss, or awkwardness suddenly stop obsessing over those things because for the first time in years, women are actually responding to them. That kind of attention changes a man fast. It makes him stand taller, talk differently, think differently. And in that emotional high, a lot of men stop asking smart questions. That is where paradise can become dangerous, because confidence is a good thing, but delusion is not. Some men go from invisible to overwhelmed. They start believing every smile means deep interest, every sweet message means loyalty, every girl who shows affection must be serious. They stop seeing the full picture. They forget that attention is not the same as commitment. They forget that being wanted in the moment is not the same as being chosen for the long term. And they definitely forget that some women are also making practical calculations of their own. So a man starts spending, helping, moving too fast, promising too much. He mistakes intensity for trust. He mistakes novelty for compatibility. And then reality shows up. Maybe the woman is not looking for marriage. Maybe she already has other options. Maybe she is open to a relationship, but not the kind he imagined. Maybe family expectations enter the picture. Maybe money starts carrying more weight than emotion. Maybe pregnancy gets involved. Maybe the whole thing goes from fantasy to responsibility in a way he never saw coming. And that is why this subject deserves more honesty than it usually gets. A lot of men do not come to the Philippines because they are evil. They come because they are lonely, disappointed, aging, frustrated, or simply tired of the way relationships feel back home. A lot of women do not enter these arrangements because they are heartless. They do it because life is expensive, support is needed, and attention from a foreign man can feel like one of the few doors open to a different future. The problem is not always the arrangement itself. The problem is what happens when one person thinks it is one thing and the other person thinks it is something else. That mismatch is where people get hurt. An older man may think he has found devotion, when really he has found a mixture of care, gratitude, need, and affection that may or may not survive if the money disappears. A younger man may think he has finally found true romantic validation when what he has actually found is a dating environment where he ranks higher than he did back home. Those are not the same thing, and men who do not understand the difference often end up making life decisions while intoxicated by attention. Then there is the part nobody likes to say out loud. Sometimes what begins as an arrangement really does turn into a relationship. Sometimes the woman who was initially there for practical reasons becomes emotionally attached. Sometimes the man who told himself he was keeping it casual ends up deeply invested. Sometimes marriage follows. Sometimes there are children. Sometimes it becomes a real family. That happens too. Life is messy like that. Human beings do not always stay inside the neat categories people assign to them. But even when it turns serious, the original imbalance does not disappear automatically. If the relationship started with money, support, dependence, or rescue energy, those things leave fingerprints. The man may always wonder if he is loved for himself or for what he provides. The woman may always feel judged for how it started, even if her feelings became real later. That tension can sit quietly underneath everything if it is never honestly talked about. This is why some of the men who move to the Philippines for these arrangements never really go back. Not because every story ends perfectly, but because even an imperfect setup can feel better to them than the loneliness they left behind. That is the part outsiders often underestimate. Once a man gets used to warmth, company, and feeling important again, it can be very hard to return to a life where nobody is waiting for him, nobody asks where he has been, and nobody cares what he had for dinner. Even if the arrangement has risks, it may still feel preferable to emptiness. That does not make it wise automatically, it just makes it understandable. And from a Filipino point of view, there is another layer to this that foreigners often miss. In the Philippines, relationships do not always exist as two private people building a bubble around themselves. Family is close, financial pressure is real, support is shared, obligation is shared. So when a foreign man becomes part of a woman's life, he may also become part of her family's emotional and financial world, whether he fully understands that or not. What he experiences as simple companionship may be connected to school fees, groceries, medicine, younger siblings, elderly parents, rent, and the daily reality of trying to keep multiple lives stable at once. That does not mean every woman is using him. It means he is stepping into a context, not an isolated fantasy. So when people talk about renting a girlfriend, the phrase itself is part of the problem. It makes everything sound colder and simpler than it is. It sounds like a man is ordering companionship the way he would order room service. In reality, what many people are stepping into is a blurred relationship where money, care, attraction, gratitude, loneliness, habit, and sometimes real attachment all mix together until nobody can fully separate one from the other. That is why men need clarity. And frankly, women do too. If a man wants companionship, he should be honest with himself about that. If he wants love, he should stop pretending a paid arrangement is automatically love just because it feels warm. If a woman wants support without romance, she should be honest too. If she wants something serious, she needs to know whether the man actually sees her as a partner or just as comfort in a beautiful country. Honesty does not remove all the risk, but it lowers the confusion, because confusion is what turns these situations ugly. The happiest stories usually come from people who understood the arrangement for what it was and then made deliberate choices from there. The ugliest stories usually come from people who lied to themselves. The man who thought he could buy loyalty, the woman who thought she could fake feelings forever, the guy who mistook loneliness, relief for destiny, the girl who mistook financial support for emotional security. Those are the combinations that tend to crash. So no, this topic is not just about cheap fantasy or old men chasing youth or young men finally getting attention. It is about loneliness, need, care, economics, family pressure, hope, power, and the human tendency to turn a convenient arrangement into a bigger story than it may actually be. And maybe that is the most honest way to end it. Some men come to the Philippines looking for pleasure and accidentally find attachment. Some come looking for companionship and accidentally find love. Some come looking for love and accidentally build an arrangement instead. The danger is not that these things happen. The danger is walking into them blind. Because once money and emotion start sharing the same room, nothing stays simple for very long.